Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out here to talk about a brand new modern collectible from IWI. But before we get into that new firearm, let's talk about calibers. In the 20th and 21st centuries, there's been three prominent calibers that were developed after World War II, and they're intermediate calibers, meaning they're not a full power military cartridge like 30-06, 303 Brit, 7.62x54R, 8mm Mauser. They're intermediate. They're more powerful than a pistol, but not quite as powerful as the old battle rifles. And the 5.56, you're well aware of. This is the US's intermediate caliber. It's a 22 caliber bullet that is used in our M16 and saws and weapons like that. Well, after World War II, we adopted the 308, which is still a full power rifle cartridge, but we eventually got around to the 5.56. But after World War II, the Russians were very quick to adopt the 7.62x39, which they would call the M43 cartridge. And it is a 30 caliber bullet in a very small case. And yeah, it's an intermediate cartridge, very similar to what the Germans adopted, which was the 8mm Kurz, which was used in the STG-44. Later, in 1974, in response to the US's adoption of the 5.56 during the Vietnam conflict, the Russians developed the 5.45x39. And this little caliber is continuing on in military service within Russia and other European countries. So really, the 5.56 and the 5.45 are the two premier calibers out there right now. Now with the 5.45, the vast majority of the times, you're going to find it chambered in firearms like this SBR. This is a Rifle Dynamics build. This one was built for me by Jim Fuller from Bulgarian Kit, and it is a AKS-74U, commonly referred to as a Krink or a Suchka or whatever nickname people want to assign to it, but its technical term is the AKS-74U, and it chambers the 5.45x39. It's a very mild caliber. It's very similar in performance to the US's own 5.56. So now we're going to move into the Galil Ace. And that's what this video is going to be about, a brand new Galil Ace that's on the market. We've already seen them in 5.56, 7.62x39, and 308. But now they've introduced it in 5.45x39, and this is my favorite Russian caliber, the 5.45. So let's take a look at this new firearm that's being offered by IWI. Guys, please swing by and check out Big Daddy Unlimited, BDU. They help support us here at the Military Arms Channel with products and things like that so we can continue to bring you content. There's a link in the video description down below that'll take you to the Mac blog and website. Please follow that link, and from there you'll find a link to Big Daddy Unlimited, and try them out just for 99 cents. You can see what they're all about. In essence, they're just like a big online store that has amazing prices. So please, again, check out BDU. In 1972, the Israelis adopted a rifle they had developed domestically that was heavily based off the RK-62 Valmet, a rifle they called the Galil, which was a modernized AK variant, which they used for a short time as a frontline military weapon, but later it would be pushed to more home guard type roles, and the M16 would become the more common rifle seen by IDF forces. But the Galil was licensed to other countries, I should mention that, like countries like South Africa and the R4, and South America it was licensed for militaries there as well, but it didn't stay in service very long in Israel. The Israelis stopped making it decades ago, but they went about developing a modernized version of it that was not intended for their own domestic use by the IDF or the Israeli Defense Forces, but primarily for export purposes. They would manufacture it for other countries and paramilitary units and law enforcement branches around the world, not for their own use. And they have licensed it to other countries like Vietnam, for example. And I'm holding an example of the Ace here. This one is chambered in 5.56. When IWI brought this rifle and pistol, there's two versions of it, to the US market, they offered it in 5.56, 7.62x39, and 308. And this is the 5.56 version. And again, this is a modernized version of the original 1972 rifle. It has a pick rail across the top. It has 1913 rail sections underneath the handguard. It has an updated folding type stock that's also adjustable for length of pull, where the original was not adjustable for length of pull. It maintains its fire control selector lever, which moves the abbreviated selector lever on the right-hand side. You have a bolt hold open device on this because it uses Stenag magazines, and you have a left side charging handle that has a spring-loaded trap door, if you will, that will close behind the bolt handle, sealing up that gap. So basically what you have is an environmentally sealed AK variant rifle. And the ACE has gone on to be quite popular with, again, other militaries around the world licensing them. What we haven't seen in the United States was a version chambered in 5.45. Now, of the Soviet era calibers, the 7.62x39 and the 5.45, the 5.45 is my favorite. It has ballistics that are very similar to the 5.56. The Russians, of course, did develop it in response to our own 5.56. And it's just one of those calibers that's affordable. The ammunition's still flowing into the country. Right now, prices are not stable because of the 2020 crisis that's going on. But typically, 5.45 is about the same price as 7.62x39. And so it's really cool that IWI listened to people. The story as it was told to me by Jeremy, the CEO of IWI US, was that they surfed the forums, they listened to what people were saying about the ACE and listening to suggestions that they had for, potential product ideas. And one of the most heavily discussed items was chambering the ACE in 5.45. And so they went ahead and did it because they had the tooling to do so, because they have made other firearms in 5.45 for military contracts. So that wound up being both a rifle and a pistol that is available right now on the US market with one little gotcha. They decided to bring in 545 rifles, 545 pistols, and it's a limited production run, a modern collectible. Each will have a special serial number from 1 to 545 and come with a certificate of authenticity. Now, IWI has also said if the 5.45 versions are popular, the door is still left open for them to make more of them. They just won't be the specially serialized ones. They won't have, unique serial numbers. They'll just be regularly marked firearms. They won't come with a certificate of authenticity and things like that. So it won't detract from the collector's value of the original 5.45 guns, but they may indeed bring the rifles out. So how can you get them to do that? Well, send them emails, let them know you'd like to buy one, because right now Copper got in some rifles and sold out within hours. And so by the time you guys see this video, we're hoping to release it this coming Monday. We may still have some pistols available over at Copper, but after that they're gone. And so if you want one and you weren't able to get in on the early guns and the collectibles, just let IWI know that you would be interested in purchasing one. I'm going to do a little bit of shooting here with the 5.56 version. The 5.56 version has a feature that the by39 versions don't. And when I say by39, I'm referring to the 7.62x39 and the 5.45x39. This version has a last round bolt hold open and a bolt release right here by your index finger. So I'm going to go ahead and charge the weapon. It has left hand charging. On top, I have a Mepro light, and this is a really cool programmable Bluetooth enabled sight. I would call it a red dot sight, but the reticle's actually green. We'll talk more about this in the future, but this was sent to me by my friends over at Optics Planet, and we do have a discount code in the video description below for Optics Planet if you want to swing by and pick something up, either one of these sites or something else. All right, so let's do a little bit of shooting here with the 5.56 version. Let's take a look at the two 5.45 versions. Now you'll notice that the magazine last round bolt hold open works. The bolt's locked to the rear. Charging handle is reciprocating. It's locked to the rear. I can drop the magazine out from either one of the magazine releases located on both sides of the gun. And then to reload, insert a fresh magazine, push down with your index finger right here, and it will strip and chamber around. I also just want to briefly mention that we are using some Unimags right now, and these are supposedly capable of feeding 5.56, 7.62x39, 5.45x39, 6.8 SPC, 6.5 Grindle. We're testing these and see how reliable they are with the different caliber types. So in case you're wondering why it has a red follower and looks a little bit different than your standard Snag magazine. That's why. All right, let's take a look at the 5.45 guns. I think you guys are going to like these. I'm absolutely in love with them. This is the new 5.45 by 39 chambered Galil Ace. The only real difference you're going to see externally from this, from the 5.56 version, is you're going to see a difference in magazine releases. This uses the AK style of flapper magazine, so this will be true of the 5.45 by 39 and also the older 7.62 by 39. And you'll notice this little cutout right here in the lower part of the polymer here. The button for the bolt hold and bolt release is absent. That's because the magazines for the AKs, which these guns rely upon, the AK-74 and the AK-47/AKM, they don't have the facilities in them in their standard military configurations for a last round hold open. That's why these rifles and the pistol that I'm going to show you don't have that last round hold open functionality. But everything else about this gun is going to be just like the previous Aces on the market, with the exception, of course, of the new caliber. So we'll get into a little bit more of the features here in a moment, but I'm going to also show you guys how the magazines, different types of magazines, fit in these firearms. Now, this rifle has a 16-inch barrel, and the pistol has an 8-inch barrel. So it's very similar in size to the Krink or AKS-74U. Here I have a Russian plum magazine. Has a triangle and arrow on it. You'll notice it rocks and locks right in. Some magazines are going to fit a little bit more tightly than others. We've noticed that, but that's true of any AK out there. They have a little bit more magazine well here than an AK, which really has no magazine well. It just has a cutout for you to stick the mag in. This has skirts that come down just a little bit, so you may find some magazines that just are too tight and won't fit. But I've had pretty good luck so far. We'll go through that here in a moment. Charging the weapon is just like the other. Just pull the bolt to the rear, let it go, and then you can fire off the 5.45. And guys, I really do love the 5.45 caliber. Guys, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share our videos, and also comment down below because it really helps us with the algorithms and helps us grow our channel. This is the new 5.45 by 39 pistol from IWI based on the Galil Ace, of course. On top of it, I have a hollow sun. This is a HS507C, I believe. It's a very small little red dot sight. I think it goes great with this small, compact little package. This one, just like its big brother and previous pistols that have been offered on the market by IWI, has the side panels that will slide off, exposing pick rails on the 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 6 o'clock position. And then, of course, you have the pick rail on your gas tube and then on your top cover. And we'll break them down here for you here in a few moments to show you what the guns look like on the inside. You know, all the controls are the same as the full-size rifle. You just have basically a shorter barrel and a brace on it. The brace, as you can see, the SB Tactical brace does fold to the side and can be easily deployed. And I think it has a very sharp look to it. The other thing that we noticed about the pistol in 5.45, both Jason and I agree that it has a muted recoil impulse as compared to the 16-inch barreled version on the rifle. The pistol is softer shooting, believe it or not. Many times you'll find that the pistols have more of a rocket effect. They feel like they're kicking more, or the blast or something's giving you the perception that the gun's jumping around more. This thing actually shoots a little bit more smoothly than the rifle. We really do enjoy shooting this gun quite a bit. This time I have a Bulgarian Circle 10 magazine. This one does have the steel reinforcements in it, so this is a military grade magazine. And one thing I like about the pistol and the rifle, when you have magazines like this that fit the gun very well, I think it's easier to get the magazine into the gun than a standard AK. Many times you'll see people struggling with the AK because they'll come in at an angle, or they'll try to come in too straight because they're used to loading AR-15s. This thing just guides that magazine straight in and locks itself in. So I think it's easier to load than just a regular old run-of-the-mill AK-74. All right, let's do a little bit of shooting with this bad boy. Let's do a quick magazine test, or I should say demonstration for you guys, between the rifle and the pistol. The magazines I have out here this afternoon are magazines I typically use with my AK-74s. I don't have a comprehensive collection of AK-74 magazines. I'm not a magazine collector, I'm a firearms collector, but these are the ones I typically use, and that's why we're going to use them this afternoon for this quick little test. Now, one thing I'll note with Bakelights in general, sometimes you'll find Bakelights that are kind of tight when you first start using them in a rifle, and many times it'll start to wear down, and the magazine will kind of shave off a little bit of material as you insert it and remove it and insert and remove it. Sometimes people will file the areas where you can see it's rubbing on the magazine, and that's true of even, you know, polymer magazines sometimes. So if a magazine's a little bit tight, don't worry about it. Just keep using it. It should loosen up a little bit, or you can help it along with some sandpaper or something. So let's start off with the pistol. We'll go through the magazines that we have here. This one is a 45 round RPK magazine. This one has the symbol on it, which is a mullet marking. So that locks right into the pistol, comes right out, and we'll keep going with the pistol, then we'll move over to the rifle. This is a PMag, and these are the magazines that will ship with the rifle or the pistol, and you will get one of these with your purchase, and it's a 30 round magazine. I did notice that the PMags were a little bit tight in the guns when I first started using them, but now they fit just fine. And again, I really like the way this magazine well kind of guides the magazine in. You got to come in toe first, that is required, but it just kind of locks itself in. It's really kind of slick. So there you go with the PMag. Here we have a Circle 10 Bulgarian. This one's a military contract mag because it has the steel reinforcements on the toe and back here on the locking lug. And with the pistol, she pops right in, you get full engagement. The tab's coming all the way to the rear and seating. Very, very smooth. Here we have an Izmash Bakelite 30 rounder. Perfectly smooth. Here we have a Bulgarian commercial magazine. This is polymer. It does not have the steel reinforcements on either the toe or the locking lug here in the rear, but she pops right in and out of the pistol, no problems whatsoever. This is another Russian red. This one is another Izmash. This is one of my favorite magazines. I love this magazine, guys, because look at the writing on the back of it. So cool. I love the deep dark red of this particular magazine. But yeah, the mag works just fine. And then finally, we have a Russian plum. Again, we have Izmash markings on it with steel reinforcements, and the plum works just fine in the pistol. Let's reverse the process. The rifle, plum first, locks in just fine. One of the Russian reds with the markings on the back, just fine. And we've also fired ammo out of these guys, and they all work just fine. Magpul mag. This one is a little tight, okay, but it still locks in. All right, and then the 45 rounder. So there you go. So in general terms, it seems like the ACE pistols and 5.45 and rifles seem to work with, actual military magazines, including commercial mags like the P-Mag and the Bulgarian commercial polymer mags. So should have pretty good luck. Just avoid TAPCO. At least they're not in business anymore, so they can get those junk magazines off the market. I know what you guys are going to ask. Does it take Glock magazines? Well, of course not. It takes AK-74 magazines. But how well does it 80s hip fire? And can I bump fire it? Let's find out. Okay, not too bad. A little slow for my liking, but it definitely works. We're going to field strip the pistol here for you guys and show you what it looks like on the inside. And just in case you've not seen one of the ACE pistols or rifles disassembled before, but one of the questions we get quite often is, does the ACE or the Galil in general maintain zero because the sights are mounted to the top cover? Well, the guns, as I've said previously in the video before, were originally designed and went into service in 1972. Back then, they had the rear sight on the top cover. And then as you move into the ACE pistols, which came around 2008, we have pick rails on the gas tube and on the top cover as well as the rear sight. And so what I have found in my own personal use of these firearms, first of all, they're AK-based firearms. They have roughly AK accuracy, which is good combat accuracy. You can put a big heavy scope on here if you want to using the 1913 rails, but I've found that big heavy optics tend to be easily torqued and you're not going to get extreme precision out of them. This pick rail lends itself nicely to red dot sights of your flavor, aim point, little reflex sights like this 507C. I have Comp M2s mounted on them, Mepro lights, anything that's commonly available out there is going to work just fine, and it's going to maintain its combat zero even though you take it apart to clean it. And we're going to demonstrate that for you here really quickly. So we have 15 rounds loaded up into the Bulgarian mag here really quick. And we're just going to take a few shots at the challenge target here. Then we're going to take the gun apart, show you what it looks like on the inside, how to field strip it really quick, and then once we get it back together, we'll fire another 15 rounds. All right, make sure the weapon's clear, drop the magazine out, check that chamber, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the weapon on safe. To disassemble it, it's pretty much just like an AK. Push in on this rather large tang, push it all the way in. Now you're gonna notice there's reinforcements on the top cover that are resistance welded around it, so it's super thick and it's kind of crimped in such a way that it fits very tightly into the receiver. So when you push this in, you're going to have to kind of wiggle that top cover to break it loose so that it'll come off. You'll also notice that the top cover has this little tongue here that interfaces with the gas tube. So it locks in the front like that, and then it locks in on the rear with this thicker reinforced heavy sheet metal. All right, and then the tang will stick through and make sure it stays in place. Okay, once you have the top cover off, just push forward on your recoil spring and guide rod and pull that out. You will notice that it has rubber pieces, a little recoil buffer here around the metal rear tang. There's nothing holding the gas tube in place other than the bolt and carrier itself. So when you pull the bolt and carrier back and out, you'll notice it has a very stumpy little piston on the pistol. That then the gas tube will just slide right out the back. There's no lever holding it in place. You just have two rails on either side that engage with the receiver. Then to take the bolt out of the carrier, it's identical to any AK you've ever used. The machining on these things is really nice. Very nicely done. Of course, it's a milled receiver, it's not stamped, and you can see what it looks like on the inside. Very consistent in their quality in my experience. over the years. All right, so putting it back together, we're going to go ahead, take our bolt, put it in the carrier, set it aside, put my gas tube in, line it up with the gas block up front and the rails in the rear. You can have gravity keep it in place, or you can put a thumb over it and hold it in place. Grab your bolt and carrier, set that into your receiver, line everything up, push it home. This is a trick that will ease your frustration when reassembling a Galil of any type, either the Ace or the older versions. Slide your recoil spring and buffer in. If you push it in and let it come all the way back like you would with a standard AK, that tang is really long, and trying to get that top cover down and trying to hold that in there is very frustrating, because you have to try to use the back end of the top cover to hold it forward and push down, and it just doesn't do it very easily. What you can do is what I just did by happenstance there, is to set that rear tang slightly forward so it's just kind of balancing outside of its little slots there. So when I get the top cover on, I pull the charging handle to the rear, it'll pop up and the tang will pop through the hole on the top cover. The challenging part is getting the top cover on, because it's so tightly fit. So you put the toe in first up front, and then I'm going to push down in the rear here, and it's going to take quite a bit of force. You kind of wiggle it. Sometimes you can get it to a certain point and then just give it a whap with the palm of your hand, a karate chop. It'll seat that top cover, but you'll see how the tang is still invisible. It's kind of tucked away inside there. It's held in place because this is an extremely tight fit. I'm just going to grab the charging handle, pull it to the rear, and the tang pops back out. All right, so now let's go back, fire off a few more rounds here, and see if she can still hit a man-sized target. And there you go. I really do like this pistol. That is a neat little blaster. As we pointed out earlier in the video, there are 545 of the pistols like this and 545 of the rifles that have been released to the US market. By the time you watch this video, Copper has pretty much sold through all of its inventory of rifles and pistols. However, that doesn't mean that's the end of them. As I had previously mentioned, they may actually go into production with these rifles and pistols. They just won't have these special serial numbers and certificates of authenticity. So go to the Copper website if you're interested in picking one of these up, and sign up for an email notification on the listing, and then should they come into stock, you'll be notified so you can pick one of them up. And the reason I'm telling you that is because my own inbox has been blown up with people asking how they can get one of these. They literally sold out within hours, I believe, nationwide, given the short number or the small number of them that there are in circulation. But let's hope that IWI sees that people are hungry for these 545 pistols and rifles and actually start to bring them in as a regular production item. So what do I think? Obviously, I enjoy the Ace. I think it's a very modern AK. It's probably one of the most modern AKs out there. It's extremely well made, robust, reliable. I enjoy them quite a bit. Of the two, if I had to pick one, the pistol or the rifle in 545, originally I thought I would pick the rifle, but the more I shoot this little pistol, the more fun it is. I'm engaging targets out at 250 yards with it with the Holosun red dot sight, and that's all the accuracy you could ever ask for out of something this small and handy. So, and the recoil impulse on this is actually softer than that of the 16-inch barreled rifle. So yeah, the pistols are really cool. They're both going to be quite collectible down the road. Guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the video description below. Click that link and consider becoming part of our Patreon family. Our Patreons knew about these firearms before the rest of the world, because many times we're given permission from manufacturers to talk about things to our Patreons before that information is public. So swing by and check us out over on Patreon. Also, right here on YouTube, there's a little join button. You can click that join button and support us right here on YouTube, because like so many other channels out there, not just gun channels, we've been heavily demonetized. And last but not least, swing by and check out coppercustom.com. All right, guys, thank you for 12 years of support. We're going to fire off the last few rounds and head home. We'll talk to you soon.